What's up, dickheads? Bobby Betts Fights. Back at it again. First video in a long time. UFC 276 is kicking off in about 4 hours. So I'm going to give you guys my top 5 props that I like on this card. I think there's a lot of value in each one. So I'm going to rattle them off in no particular order. Driving right now, July 4th weekend, having a little party. So I'm going to get some ice. So I'm going to try to avoid getting in an accident. But if I do stop or I'm not making eye contact with the camera like I'm doing now, please forgive me. But just to kick it off, the first prop that I'm playing, and these are going to be in no particular order, got Julia Stoliarenko against Jessica Rose Clark. Stoliarenko's submission prop is 5-1 right now, plus 500, which is ridiculous. She has like half of her wins have come by armbar, and if you watch any of her fights, as soon as it hits the mat, she's more than happy to give up a takedown as long as she can get in full guard and get on her back, and immediately just starts trapping arms and trying to turn, trying to catch a corner and trying to get into that arm bar. So if you're going to give me 5-1 on someone who I know is going to be on their back, especially against Jessica Rose Clark, whose game plan is going to be to wrestle right off the jump, and wrestle the entire fight and try to hold her down for a win, I'll take that any day of the week. To say that it's only got a 20% chance of happening, I think is ridiculous. If Stoliarenko wins this fight, there's a very good chance that it's going to be on submission. I think Jessica Rose Clark has an armbar loss on her record. Not saying she can't defend it, but with these props, when you get 5-1 and over, if there's someone who you know is going to attack that, it's absolutely worth the play. And I know Stoliarenko is going to be attacking submissions relentlessly off her back. Will she be successful? We'll find out. But I definitely see value there, especially at 5-1. So going with Julia Stoliarenko by submission, plus 500. Next prop that I'm going to play, I like Jim Miller by KO over Donald Cerrone. I think Cerrone's chin is questionable at this point in his career. I know Jim Miller's up there in age, but he's coming off 2 knockout wins. I don't see Miller taking it to the mat. I really think he's going to start on the feet, and once he starts tagging Cerrone, and a lot like the Morono fight, a lot like the Nico Price fight, Cerrone, when he gets hit, you can tell he just doesn't take damage well anymore. I think once Miller starts to see that success, he's going to ramp it up and eventually go for a finish. He's got pretty good timing on knowing when to, air out the gas tank in order to go for the finish. And I think Cerrone's he's going to put up a fight because it's his retirement fight. But at the end of the day, I mean, he just doesn't take the damage anymore. So you can get that at plus 310. It might have dropped a little bit depending on where money's coming in, either on FanDuel or DraftKings. But I really do like that play a lot. So I'm going with Jim Miller by knockout. Next prop that I'm playing, and this is one that's been going around Twitter for a while, and Eric Betts Fights, great guy, follow him, phenomenal capper. He pointed this one out as well. But Max Holloway by split decision is sitting at a ridiculous 1,100. Less than 10% probability, I think, is ridiculous for the third trilogy fight, where the second one went to a split decision and it went Volkanovski's way. I mean, the first 2 fights were incredibly close. It's going to stay standing. If anyone's going for a takedown, it's a steal around at the end. So it's really going to be a lot of judges' interpretation on who's wearing the damage and who's doing the more effective damage. And if you're going to give me 11-1 on something like that, where I know it's going to be a close fight, I'll take that any chance. I'll take that any day of the week, honestly. That's a sprinkle 100% of the time. So going with Max Holloway by split decision. Next prop I have is Sean O'Malley by decision. And I know O'Malley's a killer. He's been knocking everyone out, and everyone wants to play that knockout prop. And if you go on FanDuel, they boosted it up to plus 300, which is an absolute trap, a ridiculous trap. And they're going to make some money off of that prop too. They boosted his KO up to plus 300, which is ridiculous. But anyway, Pedro Munoz has never been knocked out. Pedro Munoz has never been knocked down in the UFC. Go look at his UFC stats. The man has never been knocked down. Okay, and he's been in some grueling fights. He's been around forever. And what I compare this to is, if you look at if you look at Sean O'Malley and you look at the one fight in the UFC that went to a decision, Andre Sukuncanth, same deal. Andre Sukuncanth has never been knocked out, never been knocked down in the UFC. So O'Malley, especially against, go back and look at the Moutinho fight. He's good at conserving his gas tank because ultimately he wants to win the fight. Will he put on a show? Yes. And if he feels like his opponent's wearing down, like Moutinho is just wearing damage and in the third, he'll go in for the kill by all means. But even like he alluded to at his press conference, Pedro's a tough guy. He's been around a lot longer and has stayed in the UFC a lot longer than Andre Sukenkamp. Beat a lot better competition, wore some heavy shots from a lot better competition than Andre Sukenkamp fought. So the guy's got a chin on him. I think O'Malley's got incredible athleticism and reach. And the only thing that really would worry you about Pedro Munhoz in this fight is that he does chop the legs really well. He did that extremely well in the Jimmy Rivera fight, I believe it was. Really chopped him down, started low, and just worked his way up to the body and the head. Complete performance. But unless it's... You got to value the head strikes over the leg kicks. And unless O'Malley really gets chewed up from the base up by Pedro Munhoz, I don't even know what that means. I'm just kind of spitballing at this point. Basically, what I'm trying to allude to is O'Malley's going to punch Pedro Munhoz in the face a lot more than Pedro Munhoz is going to kick him in the leg. So he's going to win the fight, and I think Pedro Munhoz has a hell of a chin on him, and he's going to go 3 rounds for a decision. You can get that at plus 170, plus 150, depending on what book you're using, FanDuel or DraftKings. But I think there's a very solid chance that fight goes to a decision. And if it goes to a decision, I like O'Malley just based on the more damaging strikes and the volume. So going with O'Malley there. And then the last prop that I have is Jalen Turner. His submission props at 7-1 plus 700. For a guy who's coming off of 2 of his last 3 wins have been by rear naked choke, I think that's worth a flyer any day of the week. He's fighting kickboxer Brad Riddell, very good kickboxer. Pretty decent takedown defense. He's more of a get back up to your feet because he knows his strength. He knows where he wants to be in the fight. But Turner's 6'3". He fights at lightweight. He's very lengthy. He has good jiu-jitsu. If and when there's a takedown or a scramble or any type of grappling that goes on, if Jalen Turner can find himself in a dominant position on Brad Riddell, these lengthy guys that have these like pipe arms, very good at finding a way to get underneath of the neck. So that's what I like in Jalen Turner. And especially against the kickboxer and Brad Riddell, I think Jalen Turner has the reach, and I think he can, by all means, win this fight standing. I have his money line as well. I think the reach is just going to give Brad Riddell just a little bit too much for him to handle. But if he wants to mix in a takedown and give Brad Riddell something else to think about, if he finds success in that area, I think he sticks to it. And after he softens him up with a little bit of ground and pound, I wouldn't be surprised if after one of those punches, slides the forearm right through, cinches it up, and if he gets under the chin, it's a wrap. So I like Jalen Turner's submission prop. And those are the top 5 that I'm playing. All worth a sprinkle in my opinion, but if you feel differently, by all means, you can comment on the video on YouTube. You can get at me at Bobby Betts Fights on Twitter. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm an idiot. I'm all for friendly conversation. I just want to hear everyone's opinions. But those are the ones that I'm pretty confident in. So, cheers. I hope everyone has a great July 4th weekend, and I hope we get a great slate of fights today. The card looks phenomenal. I think we're going to get it. Cheers.